What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm sure you guys are seeing it just the same as I am. All around the country, all around the world, all hell is breaking loose. It may not be happening all at once like SHTF, like we all thought it was just gonna, be an event where suddenly everything collapses, the economy collapses. No, it's been done through incrementalism, death by 1,000 cuts, one small thing over here maybe you don't notice. And also, I would argue their tactic is to keep people asleep. They don't want people to know that, oh yeah, all hell's breaking loose. So they're trying to do this kind of under the table or on the down low so that people like you and I, when we say these things, we sound kooky or crazy or alarmist or, hyperbolic or whatever they want to say. It's basically to discredit the truth movement, people that are trying to spread the truth. Well, one of those stories that came out this last week that has just really been blowing my mind is the whole thing with Tucker Carlson and the 45,000 hours of, yeah, that's right, 45,000 hours of footage that they haven't released regarding January 6th. And I just want to back up and let's go back in time for a minute. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine for a minute and just remember how all of these Democrats, Schumer, Pelosi, what's the other one? AOC, all of these prominent leaders in the Democrat Party were saying, this is worse than 9/11. It's worse than World War II. It's worse than anything ever because it's insurrection on the Capitol building, right? Well, I argued early on that wasn't an insurrection. For one thing, an insurrection would probably be carried out by people with arms, right? Firearms. They wouldn't have went in there empty-handed like that if it was an actual insurrection. No, actually what we're finding out is many of the people, not all of them, but many of them were invited in by the police, the Capitol Police. They were waving them in. You can see the video that Tucker released, the Q shaman guy, the guy with the horns, right? The police are leading him into the Senate chambers or wherever the floor of the Congress. They're leading him around the Capitol building. And it's not like they're perp walking the guy and they've got him stuffed and cuffed. No, they're talking to him like they're his buddies or something. This is unbelievably Orwellian. It's basically doublespeak. It's saying that this is an insurrection when really it was a riot at worst case scenario. That's the only thing I could call it. That would actually be more descriptive than an insurrection. Some people were rioting. Now the question remains, were those people that started smashing windows and punching cops and stuff like that, were they with Antifa or were they feds? Were they Fed boys in there behind the scenes, sent into that situation to cause chaos, to create the situation that happened that day? I believe so. I have no concrete proof of that yet, but I find it very interesting that Monday or Tuesday, Tucker released the video of the Q shaman. Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, Chuck Schumer was coming out on the floor of the Senate saying that Tucker Carlson needs to be stopped and he can't do this. This is wrong. And he's basically telling a lie. No, the lie, the great lie is that it was an insurrection. That is the freaking lie. And so I don't know what has happened. I don't know if it's Roger Ailes or who it is that runs Fox, but somebody has apparently pulled Tucker's strings. So what worries me and concerns me about this whole deal is this may be the Q Shaman video, may be the only video we ever see, because if Tucker's boss told him that, hey, you can't do this anymore, I'm pulling the plug on your operation or you're fired or whatever, that really puts Tucker up in the corner, right? So I don't know. I guess we'll find out how strongly Tucker believes in the right to tell the American people the truth. That's what it is, to tell the American people the truth, to show them all of the evidence. If they had nothing to hide, why were they holding back 45,000 hours of video footage on January 6th that could have helped us all to determine what actually happened that day? No, instead, the people that were acting hyperbolic were the Democrats that were in charge, and many of the rhinos like Mitch McConnell coming out and saying Tucker shouldn't be doing this shit. This is complete Orwellian freaking chaos. We've gone off the cliff, guys. I've said it before, the cliff analogy. We're over the cliff. We're falling at a rapid pace. We're heading toward the abyss. And there aren't very many glimmers of hope out there, to be honest with you. So that's one of the reasons I haven't made a video in the last week or so, is I get tired of coming on here and just saying this is, it's doom and gloom and SHTF is coming. We all feel it's coming. If you're watching this video this far in, you know it's coming. The supply chain is still as fragile as it ever was during the COVID. I mean, it just, this house of cards could easily be blown down, easily, especially now, especially with so many foreign enemies around the world that don't want to see the United States succeed. And let's talk about those foreign enemies for a minute. You've got, number one, Klaus Schwab and the WEF and all of their elite, whatever you want to call them, students, I guess we'll call them, that they've been indoctrinating for years and years. I mean, we're talking about people like Maria Bartiromo or whatever, the person from Fox News who I thought was a conservative. She's one of the members of the WEF that has gone through their special school or whatever to take over the world. Klaus Schwab is an enemy of freedom-loving Americans and freedom-loving people all around the world. His mission in life is to basically bring in this, what do they call it, the Fourth Industrial Revolution or something like that. I call it the Fourth Reich. If you do a little research on Klaus Schwab's, you'll find out that guy has direct connections through his father and through their business dealings with Adolf Hitler. They learned quite a bit from Hitler. And a lot of the things that you're seeing rolled out in this WEF agenda to take over the world through the Great Reset is directly from Hitler. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. But nobody says anything about it. They just go, oh, Klaus, oh, yeah, you guys are just stereotyping him because he's got a German accent. No, it's the things he says, not the way he says them. It doesn't help that he sounds like a supervillain, but the things he actually says, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will eat the bugs. No, I don't think so, Klaus. So my wife and I have been doubling down on our efforts to raise our own meat here in our backyard. Now, we're not set up on our 100 acres yet, so we're just here on 1.5 acres here in our suburb backyard. But a lot of you are in the same situation. You can't afford to go out and buy, a big chunk of land or whatever because land prices have exploded. So another thing I want to touch on right quick. Oh, let me finish up here with what we were talking about. Our enemies, our foreign enemies. Who else is there? Well, there's Xi Jinping in China, the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. They're certainly enemies of freedom and the United States of America. They would love nothing more than to come in here and kill all the men and keep the women for their own whatever. Concubines, sex slaves, whatever, so they can reproduce. Because China has put themselves in a situation where they've got a lot more males than females over there. So their reproduction rates are not good. Of course, all of the Western countries have declined reproduction rates. Why is that? Why is that? I don't know. Another enemy we might want to consider, and I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know from the stuff that I read that Vladimir Putin is writing about his country. I don't know if he actually is an enemy of the United States of America, but Joe Biden has put us in a position where he is now an enemy of the United States of America. So you got superpower one, the United States of America, superpower two, I don't know, it's probably a toss-up. You could argue that superpower one is actually China now. It may be, but somewhere on there, one or two, America and China, and then Russia, all nuclear capable countries, hooking it up right now and having a pissing contest at the worst possible time. The only reason that I can see that this is all happening simultaneously like it is because the globalists that run the WEF and other globalist organizations want a nuclear war. They want to reduce the population by up to 90%. That's me and you. They don't want us here. They don't think we have a right to breathe their air or eat their food or use their fuel. Meanwhile, they can fly all over the world, all over God's green earth in their airplanes. They can have multiple mansions and limos and stuff like this that running one of Al Gore's mansions would probably power the electricity for your entire street. But they don't see the hypocrisy in that. Instead, they'll come out and tell you you're wrong. You're the carbon they want to reduce. We've got all sorts of enemies, foreign enemies around the world that want to see us fail. We've also got one in the White House right now, and all the people around him are setting us up for failure. Whether they're doing it intentionally or not, I mean, I can't really prove that. I guess I could, but it'd be a long video all on its own. Just going back through Joe Biden's things that he said, his history, his quotes that he said over the years. The guy is a communist. He always has been. He always will be. And the people that are pulling his strings are Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Barack Obama, Susan Rice. All of these commies that are behind the scenes are pulling Biden's strings. That's why you're seeing the United States in a tailspin, a death spiral. We're heading toward the ground rapidly. When that plane hits the ground, it's going to be a fiery explosion, crash and burn. You better make yourself a parachute. You better make yourself a lifeboat. Whatever analogy you want to use, you better figure out a way to set yourself and your family up to where when they ruin everything in the economy, the job market, the just-in-time supply chain, when they bring that bottom card down and the house of cards starts falling, you better have some sort of a setup to where you and your family can be insulated from that. It's the only way. And so that's what I've been working on more than doing videos here lately. I've been doubling up on my efforts to build a quail cage, get my rabbitry going more and more and more. You know, right now I've got 12 kits in there in the rabbit pen with the mamas, with the does, and I've got 2 more that are ready to be harvested. We harvested our first rabbit just last week. It was delicious. We ate rabbit. I couldn't believe it. The rabbit was only like this big. It wasn't a real big one, but we ate rabbit for 3 days in a row, just my wife and I. So with a family of 4, that could certainly feed you 1 meal or maybe 2 meals out of that deal. So guys, you need to start thinking outside of the box. That grocery store may not always be there. That gas pump down there may not always have fuel in it. Your ability to operate under the current situation, the current system, is rapidly coming to an end. So you better figure out how to go back to the 1800s mentality where you don't have any power, you have to do everything for yourself, you have to carry your own water, all this sort of stuff, because I'm telling you, they're crashing the system on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. This is clearly a direct attack on the United States of America and our economy. They don't like the petrodollar. That's one of the things Klaus Schwab has been talking about. Is in one of his statements, he says the United States will no longer remain a superpower after the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, as he calls it. Again, I call it the Fourth Reich. These people are freaking evil, pure evil. Evil. There is no other word to describe what they're doing besides evil. When they're hurting everybody, from the people that actually have money to the people that have zero chance of ever getting any money because they're at the bottom of the class, they're stuck in some ghetto or something and they can't get out. They're the ones that these people are targeting. So buckle up, guys. It's going to get way worse. I mean, other stuff that's going on around the world that's on my radar is that, you know, we've got multiple train derailments here in the United States. For one, the big Ohio one that, you know, launched a plume of poisonous chemicals up into the atmosphere. You would think the environmentalists would be going nuts over that, but no, they're not going nuts over that. No, they're not worried about that because that's something that Biden and his people did, that Buttigieg did, right? So they don't want to say anything about that. They never call out actual environmental catastrophes when it's their people that were responsible for it. This double standard bullshit has got to stop. We've got to hold everybody accountable. It don't matter if he's your favorite politician or not. If the guy fucks up, you get rid of him. You at least reprimand him. You don't just pretend like nothing happened and the next big thing comes along. It's so asinine and so unbelievably Orwellian that I just can't believe it, man. I mean, I think back again. I've said this multiple times because I think about this a lot. What would I think 15, 20 years ago if I were to come back through a time machine and tell myself all this stuff that was going on? I would think, no, man, your future me, you're batshit crazy. There's no way the United States could ever let this happen. And yet, here we are. In a short time, man. I mean, in a short time. So, imagine how much farther we could fall over the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years, 6, 7 years, whatever. 2030. I mean, that's Agenda 2030. It's coming up, right? So they got to implement all this stuff to control us. It's never been about saving the world or saving the earth or saving Mother Gaia. It's about controlling the carbon. You are the carbon they want to reduce. You, me. They don't want us out here speaking up and talking back against their agenda. So Anyway, you got all these train wrecks going on, infrastructure's falling apart, can't keep the damn trains on the tracks in certain places. I think it was a second train wreck in Ohio, like right after the big one that they burned up in what was that, New Palestine or whatever. There was another train wreck because the tracks were so bumpy, because we can't even afford to take care of the tracks. I was driving down the road here in my state the other day, and I swear to you, I was like, man, I think a fucking gravel road would be smoother than this shit. I mean, it's just constantly pothole, dodging a pothole. Here's a pothole, new pothole. It's just, these people are letting the infrastructure go to hell. And who's in charge of that? Well, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, all their other communists, weirdo LGBT, people that they've put in there. That it used to be meritocracy. You would get the job because you were the most qualified for the job. Now it's not that. It's what color your skin is. It's what your sexual preferences are. It's, which bathroom you use and stuff like this. It's just so asinine that you can hardly believe it. So anyway, train wrecks going on all over the place. I can't remember where that other one was. I saw another one last night. So since the New Palestine or whatever it's called, Ohio wreck, there's been like 5 others. I mean, I get it. Trains wreck sometimes and they derail and stuff like this, but all of a sudden, all this stuff's happening. And you add this on top of the fact that we've had food production plants ever since Biden came in. It wasn't happening under Trump, but then ever since Biden came in, we've had food production facilities just suddenly, spontaneously combusting, I guess. I don't know what's causing it. So far, they haven't linked it to any terrorism or anything like this. We've had several power substations and stuff like this attacked over the past few months or whatever. People going up and shooting these substations and taking power out for an entire quarter of a state and stuff like this. I mean, it's a big deal. You would think that would be considered terrorism. And then you fast forward to last week where there was actually Antifa terrorism, and look at the media's reaction to this. Down in Atlanta, I believe it was, where they're trying to build this new police facility, training facility or whatever. Apparently, that's bad for the environment, according to these Antifa people. So they decided to go in there. I'm sure you've seen the video where the police are like all in riot gear, and suddenly they're running backwards because what looked like hundreds of people start coming in and throwing bricks, throwing fireworks, throwing all kinds of stuff, setting, $50, $60, $70,000 bulldozers on fire, burning stuff to the ground. And what? Are they terrorists? Are they put on the FBI terrorist watch list? No. It's the mother at the school board complaining about certain books that she doesn't want her kids to read. That's the one that's on the FBI watch list. So has the FBI been weaponized against the American people? Yes, absolutely yes. And some of this was going on under Donald J. Trump too, under his term. So why he didn't get rid of some of these people, the head honchos at the FBI that were doing this kind of crap, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The point is the FBI has been weaponized against the American people, against the United States Constitution, against the Bill of Rights, against the Declaration of Independence. We've reached a point, if you go back and read your Declaration of Independence, we've reached that point where, let me put it this way. The government that's in power right now no longer, in my opinion, represents the will of the people. They are operating without my consent. And I'm sure you would argue the same thing. Again, if you're watching this video this far in, you're probably in alignment on a lot of these issues. It doesn't mean we agree 100%, but I bet you we're probably pretty well aligned in the fact that we see a certain vision for America, and it's not this new vision that the Democrats are pushing right now. It's an older vision of America where it actually worked, where if you wanted to go out and get a job, you could go out and get a job. You weren't taxed to death. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but something like $6 trillion, this guy Biden just signed into his new budget, and it's going to increase taxes big time on everybody from the very top to the very bottom. Because, when it comes down to it, if you're going to spend money like they're doing, like it's going out of style, sending hundreds of billions of dollars over to Ukraine for your foreign wars, You know, I mean, you got to get that money from somewhere, so they're going to have to get it out of the American taxpayer, the people that are actually going out there and still working, which the last time I checked was only like something like 60% that pay taxes. Everybody else is riding off that 60%. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so, anyway, yeah, all hell's breaking loose all around the country. People don't want to acknowledge it. People want to live in their little comfort zone and pretend it's not happening. And I get it, you know, I mean, ignorance is bliss. I get it until it's not. Until one day you realize you were a slave. And once you realize that, you will not be able to take those shackles off. It'll be too late. Liberty and freedom are worth fighting for right now. If we wait until we don't have them, it's going to be a much, much harder hill to climb. So another thing I wanted to talk about just briefly here is, and I didn't do a whole lot of research on this, but it's just a sign that things around the world are getting out of control. South Africa, because of their power grid, not being able to provide power to all the people and having all these brownouts, South Africa, all of South Africa is on the verge of a civil war. And I know what you're thinking. Well, that's South Africa. That's not here. I'm not going to worry about that. But trust me, if that happens, it's going to affect all of us. So it could spread, it could spill out into Northern Africa. It spreads, you know, these kinds of things, these kinds of movements spread like the George Floyd riots did. That's how it happens. I was just thinking about this the other day, about how we haven't really seen any cities burning down in a long time until that deal in Atlanta where those people were throwing firebombs and Molotov cocktails and stuff like that. Until that deal, we haven't seen a lot of this kind of Antifa rage and violence, but they're not gone. They've just been hiding. They've been laying low because they've got Biden in power, see? The whole point of the George Floyd riots was to get rid of an elected president, to get rid of Donald J. Trump. And the more I see coming out about the COVID and about the origin of the COVID and about the vaccine and everything else, the more I see coming out about this, the more it reaffirms my original position on the reason they did this. It was done intentionally. They released it from a lab intentionally. Why? To get rid of Donald J. Trump. And it worked. It worked like a charm. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to let enough time go by where you can reflect back on everything that's gone on. And I can't rehash all of that because I don't have a photographic memory. So I've forgotten a lot of stuff along the way. I'm sure we've talked about it and covered a lot of this stuff, but I mean, you just look at everything that's going on and it's undeniable. There is an agenda, a globalist agenda to destroy the United States of America. It ties into January 6th. It ties into COVID. It ties into the vaccine. It ties into the 2020 election. I can't say anything else about that or I'll get in big trouble here on YouTube. There's things you're not allowed to talk about. The censorship, that's another one. The censorship is still just off the freaking charts. They're backing off a little bit and letting people say, oh yeah, the COVID vaccine, maybe it doesn't work 100% of the time and stuff like this. But meanwhile, they're still pushing this stuff on our children. I mean, you've seen this died suddenly stuff, right? I'm sure you guys have seen it to follow the channel. I mean, it's just, how do you explain that? How do you explain the fact that in the past, I've done standalone videos about this, in the past, when we had one of them was like 800 people died from a vaccine that they were doing like back in the 70s. And the president or whoever the head honcho was in charge of that, the guy in charge of the CDC at the time or whatever, said, we're pulling that because too many people have had adverse reactions, adverse effects, including death. But yet we've got a plethora of died suddenly people and they're still pushing this stuff. They're still pushing it. Something has seriously changed in the way our country operates and the way it treats the citizenry, the people, the health system, everything. It just seems like, again, we're off the edge. We're over the edge of the cliff and we're falling towards the abyss. There are a few people out there that are trying to throw up a grappling hook and get a little purchase on the side of that cliff. And maybe some of us won't have to fall all the way to the bottom. But the vast majority of the people in the United States will fall. And when they do, because they're not prepared, and when they do, all hell is going to break loose. Even if you're already prepared, even if you've got, a whole house full of canned goods and bullets and beans and guns, everything you need, it ain't going to be enough. I'm sure you guys have seen when mob mentality kicks in. That's why I brought up the thing going on, the Civil War in South Africa. When mob mentality kicks in, the George Floyd BLM riots, when that mob mentality kicks in, those people are almost unstoppable. Especially, you see it over and over, where there'll be like a police line, and at first they're able to hold them back, but then as the crowd gets bigger and bigger, they can't hold them back anymore, and the people just end up pushing through. It's numbers. You could have all the non-lethal stuff you want out there, but unless you start making bodies hit the floor, those people are not going to stop coming. And we've taken this like pansy attitude towards law enforcement and doing the right thing. And instead of doing the right thing, we're shooting them with rubber bullets and stuff like this, and pepper spray and tasing them. I guarantee you, if you brought out some, 9mm, some 40 caliber, some AR-15, some 12 gauge shotguns, and you started going, hey, if you cross this line, you're going to get smoked, and then you actually did it, those people would immediately stop. At least the sane ones. You'd have some crazies that might try to come through there, but the sane ones would immediately stop because they see real world repercussions. They see their buddy getting their brains blown out all over them. So that would stop them, right? But they never do that. It's always, oh, well, we got to use rubber bullets, and we got to use, these riot shields, and we got to use all our police gear. We can use a baton, but that's all. Oh, we can use pepper spray, but that's all. No, smoke these motherfuckers like it ain't no thing. If you're going to start acting like a goddamn animal, you're going to get smoked. That's what it comes down to. But no, we've lost that. We've lost the stomach for that sort of stuff. I don't know if it was Vietnam or all this liberalism that's been infecting our society for the past 50 or 75 years or whatever. I don't know what it is. But now all of a sudden, the American people and the police and stuff like this don't seem to have the stomach for what it's going to take to get the job done. Sometimes you're going to have to kill somebody. That's what it's going to take. So, and I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying that's what these police people are going to, the police officers are going to have to do this. And they have to have permission from their bosses and their bosses' bosses and stuff like this. So again, I'm not blaming the boots on the ground police officer for the problems that are going on right here. It's the administration. It's the people that are in these big liberal cesspool cities that are always democratically controlled and have been for decades and decades. It's these kinds of people, the Lori Lightfoots and stuff like that. Thank God Lori Lightfoot is gone now, but you see my point. It's people like that. It's governors like Gavin Newsom out there in California doing all kinds of stuff to undermine law enforcement. It's George Soros sending his DAs all around the country to slap these violent criminals on the wrists, and meanwhile, they're getting out and they're going and doing their violence again on other people. And yet the American people, many of them, a vast majority of them are just sitting there watching football, sitting there watching, whatever stupid ass shows they're watching on TV to numb their mind down so they don't have to think about the real truth. What is the real truth? The United States experiment is rapidly coming to an end if people like me and you allow it to happen. Because we are a minority. I hate to say it, but we are. We're a minority. I can see it from the views that I get on the channel when I do political content. A lot of people don't want to see this. They don't want to look at the stuff, man. They don't want to look at it because it's painful to see this. It's painful to disrupt your cognitive dissonance, to disrupt whatever you've got in your mind, your image of America in your mind. When you start seeing the truth and what's really happening, it's painful to see your country going through this stuff. It's freaking depressing, man. There have been times when I'm like needing to do a video because I have to do like a video a week or else YouTube kicks me out of the algorithm and all this stuff. And basically my channel views go way down if I don't do a video a week, right? Well, there's times when I'm just like, I can't do it. I'm too damn depressed about what's going on in my country to basically come out here and tell you guys what I'm seeing. Because it's just, I'm just too depressed. There's a point of, I think we all have it, where there are times when I just feel like, to be honest with you, I feel like giving up. And I don't feel like giving up on trying to survive. That's not what I mean. I feel like giving up on trying to convince people that there's a problem, because there's just so many people that just, they'll come into the comments and they'll say, oh no, you're just being hyperbolic. There's no World War III. Oh no, WEF ain't trying to take over your entire life and steal your property rights and ruin the Constitution, destroy the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration. No, that's not really happening. You're just making that up. You're being hyperbolic. There's not really a cabal of communists running the country and have been destroying the country for at least since the 1950s. That's not really happening. When I can point to fact after fact after fact after fact after fact, and these people never believe. They never believe. So, yeah, it's been discouraging here lately with everything going on in the country. It's getting tougher and tougher all the time, every day. So, guys, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let them win. But my point is there are times that I question myself. I'm like, why am I even doing this when I'm just preaching to the choir? I'm not actually converting anybody over. I can't name one person that's ever come into the comments and we've had a good debate. They've been on the other side of the aisle and we've actually had a good debate without name calling or anything like that. And we go back and forth and I actually convince somebody that, hey, you should look at my side of the argument. You should look at this because they're unreachable. You can't reach somebody that has been so brainwashed by the leftists that they believe all this crap. They believe that, that the pollution is going to kill us all, when in reality, it's the fucking mushroom clouds that are going to kill us all. They don't want to look at reality. And I'm sorry for cussing, but, I'm passionate about this. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I could go on and on and on of just what I've seen over the last week. It's pure freaking chaos. Prepare yourself. Get a parachute. Get a lifeboat. Get a grappling hook. Get some way that you can save yourself and your family. Because if we don't do it, America's done. America's dead. This grand experiment in freedom and liberty will be over, and it will have all been in vain. All of the people, all of the founding fathers, all of our forefathers, all of the soldiers that have gone over to fight against tyranny, or they thought they were fighting against tyranny or communism and stuff like this, all of those people will have died in vain if we don't do our duty. Protect, defend the Constitution of the United States of America at all costs. And I think you know what that means. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Hang in there. I just wanted you to know there are people out there like you that are madder than hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments about all of these stories and any other stories that I skipped over. Please come in, comment. That helps the videos. Subscribe if you like this kind of content. If you're on the fence and you're on the left and you can be reached, if there's some way that we could have a cordial debate down in the comments or something like that, where we could go back and forth. You could tell me my ideas are all wrong, and I'll come in and tell you your ideas are all wrong. But we can do it in a polite sort of way. Maybe we could reach some sort of a middle ground. Maybe there's some way to extend an olive branch over to the other side. But honestly, when I look at the things that the people on the left are doing, I don't think there's any reach in them. I think they're lost. And if that's the case, if the last 2020 election is any indication of things to come, then we're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. People that love freedom and liberty. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what it is with me, but when I read that stuff in history, when I was growing up and learning about the founding fathers and learning about the principles of America and why they did it and everything like that, I actually believed it. Maybe I'm a sucker for actually believing that stuff. And maybe it is idealistic in a way. A lot of these things that we have, freedom and liberty and things like this that are being taken for granted every day. Maybe it's just a grand idea and that idea is over now. I don't know, but it certainly feels like we're on the precipice of certain destruction. So guys, prepare for the worst. I didn't even go into the banks collapsing and the runs on the banks and stuff like this. That's the main headline of today. What's it called? Silicon Valley Bank. That could be a canary in the coal mine. That could be contagious. All around the country, banks could start collapsing. People could start running on the banks to go get their cash out. And when they find out that they don't actually have their cash in the bank, a lot of people are going to get upset about that. So you probably ought to get some cash out if you want to be able to buy stuff in the future. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Please, please, please heed my warning. Go stock up now. It may be your last chance. As always, I stand for liberty. I hope you do too.